So if you go back to my prediction video on the NL, you would know that I didn't buy what the Diamondbacks were really doing, and you would think that I had a problem with their management, because I did at the time. I have some good news and bad news, D-Mac fans. The good news is you won't lose more than 93 games this season. The bad news is that you will not win more than 69 games this season. The offense will keep this team from sucking, especially in Chase Field, but I ultimately think that this pitching staff will cost them. So yeah, I didn't think that they were going to get better or worse, really. And I certainly didn't expect this. And at this point, it would take a major collapse for them to actually get down to what I had in my predictions, which was a 69 and 93 season for them. So, I mean, they've been a big surprise, to me at least. They've been a big surprise, and they currently are in the hold for that first wild card spot, and they're kind of battling the Rockies for that. Well, for that first wild card spot, it's kind of what they're battling against. Who's gonna get that top wild card spot and who won't? And it's mainly because the National League is pretty weak right now. It is pretty weak. It is not good. And the only teams, the standout teams, are like big standout teams, and they would not be this good in the American League per se. The American League is a lot stronger. They don't have as many teams that are off the charts like the National League teams. They're like the Nats and the Brewers and the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks and the Rockies, who are just winning and just can't stop winning. And then there's like one team, the Cubs, that are trying to creep back into the race. So, I mean, the National League has been a big surprise. The Diamondbacks, the Dodgers and the Nets aren't as big as surprises, but the Diamondbacks in particular are a team that I think people should start taking seriously. I didn't really take them seriously because after what I saw from them last year in terms of their pitching and in terms of how they structured their lineup, I didn't really believe in them. But now I'm starting to buy what they're selling me. Because they have some good depth behind their starters with guys like Chris Owings, Gregor Blanco, and actually Chris Owings is in the lineup because of some injuries. But once AJ Pollock and Yasmani Tomas come back, this is going to be a pretty good team. It's going to be even better than what they already are. It's going to be even better. And like I said, Gregor Blanco and Chris Owings are filling in for some injuries right now. Actually, Chris Owings is starting in place of Nick Ahmed. But Nick Ahmed and Chris Iannetta, Gregor Blanco, Daniel Descalso, they fill out the depth of the Diamondbacks. But the guys that's really you should be watching out for are Jake Lamb and Paul Goldschmidt. These guys know how to hit for power, and Paul Goldschmidt is more of an all-around hitter. He can hit for contact and power, and he can get on base too. He knows how to draw walks. He leads the team in walks. I mean, Jake Lamb can do that too, but he's really more so of a power bat. Arizona's just an offense-oriented stadium. Chase Field is, I should say. Chase Field is, and that's where you see guys like Paul Goldschmidt and Jake Lamb who are just raking. Because Paul Goldschmidt is hitting .332, .447, and .606 with 18 home runs, 68 runs, and 65 RBIs. And then he also has 13 stolen bags, which leads the team. And I'm not sure he would lead the team if AJ Pollock was healthy, but he's a great player. He's a great player, and he's been that way for basically his whole career. He's been a great player. And I think people should start recognizing him now. And I think it's time to stop sleeping on the Diamondbacks, because they look like they're real contenders. You could take a look at other guys such as Brandon Drury. He's been a pretty good contact hitter. He's been able to get some doubles, and he has one triple on the season as well. So I mean, there's that. But Brandon Drury has been a pretty good guy. He's currently hitting 6th according to rosterresource.com. but he's been a pretty good contact hitter. He's hitting like 295 on the season, and he has a 481 slugging percentage with a 340 OBP. So he's been a pretty good contact bat. Chris Owings has been in the starting lineup instead of Nick Ahmed, and he's been doing well himself. 289, 323, and 464 slash line with 9 home runs and 31 runs in his 70 games played. And obviously, like I said, Jake Lamb, he's second in the team in home runs behind Paul Goldschmidt, as he has 17 home runs, 62 RBIs, and 46 runs with a slash line of 280, 379, and 546. So Jake Lamb knows how to hit too. He knows how to hit too. He knows how to get on base, and he knows how to swing the bat. He can drive the ball, and he's only 26 too. He's only 26, so he's gonna be a good player for quite a long time, or at least for a couple of, for like at least I would say 7 more years, 5 to 7 more years. But now I knew that the offense had talent. I just had some question marks about their structure of the lineup, and also a guy that I forgot to mention, David Peralta. He's hitting like 328, 377, and 492. He's a good hitter against right-handers in particular. He knows how to get on base, and he also knows how to get hits. Getting hits in particular is where he really shines, because he only has like 17 walks on the season. But David Peralta is a pretty good number 2 hitter. He's hitting number 2 behind Gregor Blanco, and he's protected by Paul Goldschmidt, who's protected by Jake Lamb, who's protected by Chris Owings. And so the Diamondbacks, their lineup is legit. That's not really where I had question marks. I had question marks about their structure, but they switched it up, and I think I agree with it more now. The pitching staff is really what I couldn't really get behind, because Zack Greinke, I called it like the number 2 starter, the number 2 as a number 1 starter effect. That's what the Diamondbacks fell for in terms of Zack Greinke. That's what I called it. But now he's starting to pitch like an ace, or at least like a number 2 hitter. Number 2 pitcher. He has like a 3.14 ERA with a 1.04 WHIP, and his FIP is at 3.31. So he's been doing really well. 111 strikeouts as well with 19 walks. So Zack Greinke has been a great pitcher. He's been a very good pitcher, I should say. And then there's Robby Ray. He has a 2.87 ERA with a 1.17 WHIP. His FIP wouldn't suggest that he's doing as good as his ERA would suggest, with a 3.59 FIP. But overall, Robby Ray has been pretty good. Taijuan Walker is a guy that I didn't really agree with in terms of shipping him or trading for him and shipping off Gene Segura and Mitch Haniger, but he's been solid. He's been solid. Nothing too special, I would say, but he's been pretty solid. And there's also Zach Godley. He's been pitching recently. He's pitched in 9 games. He started 9 games, and he has like a 2.53 ERA with a 1 WHIP and a 3.17 FIP. So I would suggest that those numbers might go up a little bit more, but he's been doing pretty good. Randall Delgado made a spot start, but he's going to be in the bullpen. And that's the thing. Their bullpen has been doing pretty solid as well. Their bullpen, Fernando Rodney is their closer. He started off not so good, but he's been doing pretty good in the last in recent games, I would say. In recent games. So there's Fernando Rodney, and the rest of their bullpen, they have guys like Archie Bradley, Jorge De La Rosa, Andrew Chaffin, JJ Hoover's on the DL, Randall Delgado, and TJ McFarland, or Robby De La Rosa, Silvino Bracho, and they have. So their pitching is what I can actually get behind. I can't really get behind the Rockies pitching. I can get behind the Rockies bullpen, but not necessarily their starters. And I can get behind the Diamondbacks bats as well. Like, they're not going to have as high a stats, because even though Chase Field is an offense-oriented ballpark, it's not as impactful as Coors Field is. And so when they have guys that can produce runs, they have a lineup that can produce runs, this is going to be a pretty scary team. Now, can they beat the Dodgers? I would say, based on the Dodgers' history, in terms of, I would say the fact that while they're pitching, aka Clayton Kershaw, doesn't show up in the postseason like he does in the regular season. I mean, Kershaw did actually pretty well last postseason until the NLCS, but I would say that the Diamondbacks do have a possibility of competing with the Dodgers. I would say that that's the case. And I would say that they could possibly compete. I mean, we'll see, but I certainly think that the offense is good enough to do so, and I think that their pitching can continue to do pretty well. I think that can definitely be the case for the Diamondbacks, because they are a very good team. They have a good offense, and they've got good defense as well. And so, in terms of I would say in a National League outlook, since the National League is pretty weak in the way that I didn't expect it to be, this team is, I see playoffs for the Diamondbacks. I see playoffs unless they falter majorly and the Cubs are able to get it together. Then I see playoffs. Especially if the Rockies falter, especially because that's still a possibility to me. But either way, that's kind of how I see the Diamondbacks playing out. And you can leave a comment down below if you have any other thoughts on them, because I don't really think that I covered everything per se. But leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And I'm RJ West. I'm saying so long.